Welcome to Retiring Well. We're going to be diving into this psychological shift that comes with retirement. What does that mean, and how do you transition to retirement emotionally and psychologically? What about how do you select a financial advisor? There's a lot of different questions you should be asking, so pay attention. And then lastly, don't fall victim to poor advice. We're going to do a two-part series with Joe and Jack, diving into maybe some of the different concepts or ideas that have been put out there and that you don't want to fall victim to. So stay tuned for all this and a whole lot more coming up on Retiring Well.
Retiring Well, brought to you by Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning and serving all of Northern Michigan. Retiring Well, helping you plan for a successful and comfortable retirement. Retiring Well, plan to retire well.
Here at Retiring Well and Centennial Wealth Advisory, we talk about retirement. And one of the biggest questions we often get is, do I have enough to retire? So generally speaking, when we think of retirement, and a lot of what we spend is the financial end of that. We're not going to talk about that today here on this segment. We're going to kind of talk about the psychology of that and just the mental part that a lot of people, I think, underestimate when they get to retirement. When we sit down and we talk through scenarios and work out plans and show people that they can retire well, that they don't have to worry about running out of money, that they're going to have proper sources of cash flow to come in to meet their needs, they're going to do the things they want to do, and it all sounds fine and well, but there's still the fact you're going to walk away from a career, from a job that maybe you still like, maybe you don't like, but it's something that's been part of your life for 30, 40, 50 years or more.
Yeah, so true, Art. I mean, we were looking at a study recently that said, you spend about 90,000 hours at work over your lifetime, which is about a third of the time that you're awake here on Earth and everything. And it's hard to believe that ultimately a third of your life is really spent working. And so with that comes sometimes sort of this identity. Some folks sort of rely on their work as, hey, that's what I identify as part of me over all those years. Then when you potentially are looking at this transition of all those working hours and years to, okay, now I'm just all of a sudden done, there might be that sense of loneliness that you might have. A lot of times people build friendships through work, and that's their social network. There's also difficulty then of transitioning to finding some type of new routine. You're used to, okay, I'm waking up at this time, I'm putting on these clothes, I'm going and doing this for the next 8, 9, 10 hours, whatever it might be. That's my routine. And it comes with a drastic change all of a sudden when you say, okay, you've done that for 30, 40 years, that's coming to an end.
Absolutely. You know, by humans, we're characters of routine. We thrive typically on routine. And your routine, you know, like you said, maybe often is literally you get up at a certain time every day. You have the same thing to eat. You know, you get in the car, you drive to the office or your job, and you're around the similar people that you've been, and it becomes just that's your routine, that's your habits. Oftentimes, people's greatest accomplishments often are maybe recognized through their workplace as something they've done or solved or created from that perspective. Their own friends. You know, when you're spending a third of your waking time, oftentimes people develop friendships in the office, and that becomes part of it. So again, oftentimes we recognize in hearing people's stories and stuff like that, you're not just walking away from a paycheck. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about the financial end of it. You're walking away from potentially some great friends that you spend time with. And then now all of a sudden with this transition, you know, there comes a day when you don't go to the office, you don't punch the time clock, and there comes a day now you have a ton of free time every day to do what?
Right, so true. And some of the positive things that we've seen over the last 20 years here at Centennial Wealth Advisory for those folks that are transitioning to retirement have sort of seen it as this great new chapter of their life. And they've gone and taken on different volunteer responsibilities. You know, there's a lot of opportunities in Northern Michigan to volunteer and help those in need. And beyond that, a lot of times family. Hopefully if you're close to children, grandchildren, so many great stories that we've heard over the years years, spending that extra time that you get when you're not working, and then also some of those hobbies that maybe you had prior to retirement, or maybe new ones that you wanted to tackle as part of some uplifting new opportunity that you see. And I know, Art, you recently had a meeting with a client where they were struggling with, how do I make this transition?
Absolutely. You know, for a client here in Northern Michigan in the Traverse City office, he's been watching the television show for many years, called in, sat down, and he's had a career that's really spanned his whole adult working career. He's been in this industry and he's loved it. It's a sales type industry. He's created all these sort of customers that have become friends in these relationships, and he's in his mid 60s and is just struggling fully walking away from that. He's got grandkids he loves. He goes to their sporting events and does this sort of things. He's got friends he plays pickleball from, but he was just telling me the other day, there's something about, feeling this sense of accomplishment, something about, walking away from, almost he feels guilty walking away from these relationships that he's had over these years, and he just can't get past that. Financially, they're in a great spot, but it's tough.
Yeah, most definitely. And so if you're in a position where you're unsure of what retirement really looks like, we're happy to sit down with you and discuss your overall retirement plan.
What is your plan to not run out of money? Is your SAFE portfolio actually safe? Are you prepared for the fundamental transition to retirement? What are the benefits of tax loss harvesting? Do you have a local financial planning team? You have questions? We've got answers. We are Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial professionals, specializing in retirement planning and serving all of Northern Michigan, with offices in Traverse City, Gaylord, Petoskey, Cadillac, and Manistee. If you are retired or nearing retirement, we invite you to an informative live event to help you plan to retire well. There is no cost and no obligation, and dinner is on us. Call 888-608-5825 or register online and choose the date and location that works best for you. Tuesday, July 15th at Lakeside Charlie's in Cadillac. Tuesday, July 15th at the Stafford's Perry Hotel in Petoskey. Wednesday, July 16th at Treetops Hunter's Grill in Gaylord. Tuesday, July 22nd at the Blue Pelican in Central Lake. Or Thursday, July 24th at Bluefish Kitchen and Bar in Manistee. The live event starts at 6:30 p.m. and is free to attend, with a complimentary gourmet dinner to follow. But seating is limited and tends to fill quickly. Call 888-608-5825 or register online to reserve your seats today. Don't miss this important live event to help you plan to retire well.
Let us help you guard your golden years in an effort to turn your retirement dreams into reality. Learn about proven strategies to help you combat the impact of falling interest rates and explore attractive alternatives. Simply go to send-wealth.com. Scroll down and click the link Helping to Guard Your Golden Years to receive your free copy of our valuable and informative white paper, Helping to Guard Your Golden Years.
Centennial Wealth Advisory is expanding, and we are excited to add a new office in Manistee to better serve our growing family of clients. Our new office is located in the historic Briney Building in the center of idyllic downtown Manistee. Whether you are an existing client or would like to meet for the first time for your free, no-obligation initial consultation, we look forward to welcoming you in our new office or at any of our Northern Michigan locations in Traverse City, Gaylord, Petoskey, Cadillac, or Manistee. At Centennial Wealth Advisory, we specialize in retirement planning with a holistic approach that includes income planning, tax planning, investment planning, healthcare planning, and estate planning. We'll never pressure anyone to become a client. We believe in providing quality financial education, as presented in our locally produced weekly financial television program, Retiring Well, currently in its 14th year and airing on all major networks in Northern Michigan. Whether you're in the Manistee area or anywhere in Northern Michigan, we'd love to hear from you.
Tax smart planning. I think it's an extremely beneficial and a great way that we earn our keep here at Centennial Wealth is through doing that tax planning. Okay, I have yet to meet somebody that says, hey, I enjoy paying taxes, right? Nobody wants to pay taxes. In fact, my 7-year-old got to experience this firsthand recently. So he got a $20 gift card from his great-grandmother for his birthday to go pick out a toy of his choosing. And we have a little hobby farm in Gaylord, and we've got 4 ducks that is primarily Noah's responsibility to take care of. And the ducks really don't like him at all. They don't follow him around. They don't come when he calls or anything like that. And so he wanted to take this $20 gift card and go to Jay's to get a duck call. So I take him to Jay's, we find the duck call, and it works out great. It's only $19.99, okay? He thinks, oh, that's perfect, right? So we bring up the duck call to the cashier. He sets it on the counter, and she goes, well, that'll be $21.19. And just in total confusion, he looks back at me and is like, well, what do I do? I've got a $20 gift card, but it's $21.19. So I gave him the change, and we take care of that. And as soon as we get out of earshot from the cashier, Noah's like, well, what was that, Dad? It said only $19.99. And I said, that's taxes, son. And he said, Dad, I don't like taxes, right? So, you know, he had a plan, right? He's like, well, I got $20. This duck call is going to be $19.99. It's going to work out perfectly. He didn't count on taxes. And, you know, so often we see that with clients that are prospective clients that come in, that they think they've got this solid investment plan, right? And then they realize, well, wait a second, we're not even touching on taxes, right? So how can you have a solid investment or a solid retirement plan without talking about taxes? And here at Centennial Wealth, not only do we do investment planning, health insurance planning, income planning, estate planning, but we also really dive into tax planning. So today I want to cover just one way that we go about earning our keep on the tax side. And it involves a recent scenario I had with a client, with a new client that brought in about $1 million of pre-tax money. So this client, he was 65 years old, just retired, has a great pension, Social Security, and $1 million in pre-tax money saved for retirement. He's very blessed in that he doesn't need this $1 million of pre-tax money to live on. His pension and his Social Security meet basically all his needs, and he has no debt. So it's a great situation for him to be in. But he wants to take this $1 million and he wants to leave it to his 2 children when he passes. And he wants to do that in the most tax efficient way possible. So I start by asking him, well, where do you think that $1 million is going to be at age 73, some 8 years from now, when you're required to take money out of that account, that pre-tax account? And he thought, well, you know, I hope it's doubled, okay? So that'd be $2 million at that point, assuming he doesn't touch the funds and, you know, the market appreciates accordingly. He wants to have $2 million at age 73. So I informed him that, you know, once RMDs kick in at age 73, if your funds do indeed grow to $2 million, you're going to be forced to take out $75,000 a year, whether you want it or not, whether you need it or not. So the IRS gets their tax money, right? So what can we do to minimize that and get Uncle Sam out of his pocket, right? And so we went over Roth conversions. And, you know, with the Tax and Jobs Act of 2017, you know, our current tax rates that we're in, we're getting a little break right now. He happened to be in the 12%, which is a 3% savings, okay? And if at age 73 his funds did grow to $2 million and he was forced to take out $75K, he'd be bumping into the 22% tax bracket. So essentially, he'd always be in that 22 or higher once this tax law sunsets in 2025. So we set up a plan where we do Roth conversions year over year over year to help reduce his RMD, pay taxes now at a lower rate than what we think they're going to be in the future, and hopefully save him some money that his heirs could inherit at a lower tax rate as well. So that's just one example of how we navigate taxes, and there's so many different ways and so many different options. So if your advisor isn't talking about taxes, he should be, because that's the way to really plan to retire well.
What is your plan to not run out of money? Is your SAFE portfolio actually safe? Are you prepared for the fundamental transition to retirement? What are the benefits of tax loss harvesting? Do you have a local financial planning team? You have questions? We've got answers. We are Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial professionals, specializing in retirement planning and serving all of Northern Michigan, with offices in Traverse City, Gaylord, Petoskey, Cadillac, and Manistee. If you are retired or nearing retirement, we invite you to an informative live event to help you plan to retire well. There is no cost and no obligation, and dinner is on us. Call 888-608-5825 or register online and choose the date and location that works best for you. Tuesday, July 15th at Lakeside Charlie's in Cadillac. Tuesday, July 15th at the Stafford's Perry Hotel in Petoskey. Wednesday, July 16th at Treetops Hunter's Grill in Gaylord. Tuesday, July 22nd at the Blue Pelican in Central Lake. Or Thursday, July 24th at Bluefish Kitchen and Bar in Manistee. The live event starts at 6:30 p.m. and is free to attend, with a complimentary gourmet dinner to follow. But seating is limited and tends to fill quickly. Call 888-608-5825 or register online to reserve your seats today. Don't miss this important live event to help you plan to retire well. Centennial Wealth Advisory is expanding, and we are excited to add a new office in Manistee to better serve our growing family of clients. Our new office is located in the historic Briney Building in the center of idyllic downtown Manistee. Whether you are an existing client or would like to meet for the first time for your free, no-obligation initial consultation, we look forward to welcoming you in our new office or at any of our Northern Michigan locations in Traverse City, Gaylord, Petoskey, Cadillac, or Manistee. At Centennial Wealth Advisory, we specialize in retirement planning with a holistic approach that includes income planning, tax planning, investment planning, healthcare planning, and estate planning. We'll never pressure anyone to become a client. We believe in providing quality financial education, as presented in our locally produced weekly financial television program, Retiring Well, currently in its 14th year and airing on all major networks in Northern Michigan. Whether you're in the Manistee area or anywhere in Northern Michigan, we'd love to hear from you. Living life isn't always easy. It puts up challenges and obstacles you'll have to overcome. There are responsibilities. You put in effort to provide and take care of your family, to save and invest, to balance work and life. Planning is the first step to succeeding. Plan to retire well.
Hey, welcome to this segment on Don't Fall Victim to Poor Advice. What kind of originated this is Joe and I and some other advisors, we're just in the break room, we were just talking about different stories that we come across. And it was a really natural way to just say, hey, listen to this one, this is what I found. And so as we were talking about that, we thought, it'd be kind of fun to educate our viewer base with what's out there. These are current stories, these are current situations that we run across. And so, this segment here is just going to be a very free-flowing way to just kind of share some of those stories of the things that we run across. So I know you have a good one to start with there, Joe.
I have a lot of them, unfortunately. The downside of being in the industry for 12 plus years is I've seen a lot of different things. And, as we've seen a lot of you coming in from watching the TV show, we tend to uncover things that maybe we don't want to admit as far as if it's right or wrong with working with different advisors in town. But like a recent example that I saw, or a few different examples, is had a few new clients come in and give you context. One client's in their 70s, one in their 60s, and then another one in their mid 40s. And it was interesting as we start to dig into the portfolios, is they all had the exact same investments. They were allocated exactly the same. And I would ask you, Jack, do you think if you had 3 different people in these different age groups, do you think they all have the same risk tolerance, the same financial plan? Probably not. And it's just one of those where you start to think about, if we're doing holistic financial planning, how does everybody have the same thing?
Yeah, how could that be, right? What has to be in place for that advisor, or he or she, whatever they're doing, in order to say, we're going to paint a really broad stroke. No matter who comes in, this is what we're going to produce. And I think we see this, okay, and they lose that individuality of their plan. It's easy. It would be super easy on the advisor side if we could just be like, hey, come on over to Centennial, and they came in and they had everything already pre-done. Right? What would you miss out on? Well, you'd miss out on what are they trying to accomplish, where are they at, what's their tax situation, what's their income need, what are their goals, what are their dreams. If you can't get all of those questions answered, then a very broad answer is not going to be good advice for them. That would be an example of very poor advice, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you said, I think you said, well, if we're taking on new clients and it was just everybody gets the exact same thing, great, churn and burn. We can get through a lot of different cases. That's great for a business, but I'm always a fan of, we have to do hard things. And just last weekend did a powerlifting competition, did a mountain bike race the week before. I'm always trying to push myself, and when I'm looking at cases with clients is, how can we be more creative? I'm not necessarily trying to find just the easy way out of just buy this mutual fund, buy this annuity, buy this income rider. Sorry, actually, what's your risk tolerance? What's your financial plan? How do we create the investment portfolio to align with that? And then let's stress test it. Let's break it and then make sure the portfolio is in a position where if we do have one of these what if events, we're in the best case scenario to accomplish your goals.
So I had a recent one out of the Cadillac office where a client came in and they were just kind of confused on what they had exactly and just asking for some feedback. And so we were just talking, and when we're doing that, it's a very low key, very unthreatening environment. We're just talk to us, so let us know where you're at and what you've been through, and most importantly, what is the next season? What are you trying to accomplish? And so this client, he was just talking. He said, he goes, I'm just confused as to why the account balance in my Roth IRA for the last 11 years really hasn't done much. And I said, okay, well, we can do all kinds of analysis. We can offer all kinds of feedback if we get a statement. So he said, okay, I'll get you a statement and you can do your deep dive. So we get into the statement, and I see that what he has. And so as we get to the next meeting, I said, hey, let's really narrow down with your Roth IRA and the funds on there. What are you trying to accomplish with those funds? And he said, well, I'm really well positioned in my traditional IRA, and I have a non-qualified account that's going to set up my retirement income. So I'm really good there. My Roth IRA is really intended to just be an accumulation. This is going to be legacy stuff. I want to pass on tax-free money. I said, okay, great. All right. That's good what you're trying to accomplish. Thanks for that clarity. Guess what he had in his Roth IRA?
Probably something that's not a lot of growth and maybe high fees.
Okay, all right, good guess. Yeah. Yep. He had a variable annuity with an income rider. In the sub-accounts in his variable annuities were, not...
Let me guess, bonds.
Bonds. And so the point of that, maybe, you could speak into that just because it's fun for you to kind of talk through. Sure. Does that position that was in his Roth IRA match what I just told you about what his goal was?
I mean, when I hear Roth IRA, my mind immediately goes to trying to really put the pedal down tax-free growth.
Yep.
And when I hear variable annuity, that's probably the place where you're not going to have a lot of growth because you're going to have maybe higher costs. Now, if you're trying to create tax-free income and try to create a pension, that might be suitable. But if it's legacy dollars, probably not the most appropriate thing. I'm willing to bet the person was trying to get a little extra commission check that month to hit their goals that were set by them. Not trying to say variable annuities are good or bad, but based on what you just shared, that probably isn't the right fit, in my opinion.
Right, and so then as we did a deeper dive into the statement, we see that the costs and the fees associated with that is why that 11, 12-year return might have averaged 3 or 4%, okay? And so then it gets a little bit worse, right? So, yeah, that's fun. We get to find solutions, we get to play matchmaker. What are you trying to accomplish? Here's what the market says is out there, everything from no market risk to risk on, right? We get the whole spectrum. And so as we were walking through what those solutions were for him, he said, yeah, I like that solution and I like that one. Cool. So let's do those solutions. In the transfer process though, as he was going to move stuff over, he went and talked to his old advisor and said, hey, I'm going to move my IRA and my Roth. His advisor said, well, if you do that, every single dollar you move from my firm will be a taxable event.
Great. Yeah.
So is that true?
No, that's not true. But what a client, acquisition strategy of let's just lie, right? Maybe to try to keep him instead of doing the right thing on the investment standpoint. Probably wouldn't have been transferring if he had invested it right, listened to his goals. But fortunately, he tried to sell a product, and when he tried to move away, his strategy, well, let me just pivot and then lie to him to retain the assets. Well, that's a good business strategy.
Well, there's a huge amount of trust that's transferred immediately, and that's something that is so valuable to maintain and to keep. And if you have a business model that is above reproach, you never have to look back at the advice that you give. You sleep wonderfully at night because you know that you're going to be educating, you're going to be coaching, you're going to be teaching, and you're going to be matching people up with what their life savings. They earned it, right? And now we get to help protect it and position it with purpose. And that's a super rewarding job that we get to do.
Yeah.
I know you had another story about a client that a husband passed away. And
yeah, unfortunate scenario. Husband passed away. She received some death benefit. Fantastic. She needed it for a living. That's the whole point of having life insurance. Met with another company in Traverse City, and their first thought was, someone in their mid-70s, let's go put this in a 15-year annuity. On top of that, let's go throw a rider on it, so now it has a cost, and let's put it in a fixed index arrangement where it's going to be capped on its growth. But the kicker was it had no liquidity to it. No. So here's a widow who received tax-free death benefit, needs the money for living expenses. Now the money's in a position where it's not liquid and it's tax-deferred growth, but taxable on the way out. So it's one of those where it's like, there's certain situations where you see it, and my immediate reaction was, I think you need to report this to FINRA, because this is so egregiously wrong and it's going to such negatively impact her financial situation that there's nothing she can do. She has no access to this money without paying substantial penalties. And it's so sad because there wasn't a lot we could do to help her. I mean, we did what we could, but it's like we're just limited without, again, incurring these penalties with the annuities. And not saying, again, annuities are good or bad, it's just we have to be careful when we're doing these investments. Sometimes it's good to get a second opinion instead of just jumping in, especially when you're going through emotions, with deaths or, disabilities and those sorts of things. We have to be very careful in what we're doing. And fortunately, we have a lot of advisors in town that say they do holistic planning, but all they do is they give you a product. And that's not really doing holistic planning. And I think where we're different in Centennial Wealth Advisory is we work as a team. We bounce ideas off of each other, where Jack and I talk a lot on different cases. I can get his opinions. He has different, upbringing than me. He's seen different things, so we can give different perspective. And I think that's important when we're doing any sort of case analysis with clients.
So that's great words there, because my biggest takeaway from all of this stuff is just do a deep dive. I think you all sitting there, you have the ability at your gut level to know if what your advisor is doing, he or she, is in your best interest. And I think if you have a gut feeling where you're just like, this just doesn't make sense to me, obviously, we get to give free feedback constantly and without pressure. So I hope this is helpful. I hope you got some things to be aware of about where poor advice might be out there. And obviously, thank you for watching. We appreciate you very much.
Absolutely. Be sure to check out the YouTube channel, TV show, and then if you are concerned with what your advisor is doing, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to do kind of that deep dive analysis that Jack mentioned.